Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble,
Assemble.
Volume 247. And we've got a very chock-filled show tonight. We already knew we were getting 3 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and then news started breaking this weekend with a few leaks saying that we were getting the first Fantastic Four First Steps trailer, and then those leaks, and then that information disappeared from Good Morning America, and then eventually they just got forced to confirm it. So we got a new trailer to break down tonight. So a lot of good stuff. You know what that means? You know what that means for next week? Nothing. No. No.
Absolutely nothing. Nothing's happening.
Well, we know we're at least getting probably another new trailer to break down next week with more than likely Thunderbolts. So, because apparently there's some sort of big game, some super game, as it were, played with not with a foot, but with a hand and occasionally with a foot.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it ever in my life. As you can see from my background, I am a soccer fan. So, yeah, never heard of this other game.
So, how have you been this week, David?
I've been all right. I had a little bit of a sickness that I've been getting over, so I had lots of rest, lots of medicine, just to kind of bounce myself back. But other than that, it's been a pretty all right week. So, how about yourself?
It's been busy, just getting used to this new position and everything like that, but have enjoyed it so far. Just busy, a tired but a good tired. I'm looking forward to the weekend just to kind of play a little more catch up and get some rest in.
Yeah.
So, but I see Omari Daniels in the chat saying, even though I'm not a big F4 fan, I saw that new trailer and I gotta say it's fantastic. Fifth of Jack, good evening. Time to get that Marvel Alliance fix. I'm not telling on someone, but someone hasn't done their comic book homework. Is he telling on himself?
Ooh.
So I don't know. I think David has indicated who his he's wearing a lot of green. If you're not watching the video, I don't know. He's wearing a lot of green and white. I don't know what
I,
that means. I'm an NFC East person, so I mean I'm just against that whole idea and principle being a Giants fan. So
I am technically there are the Avengers on my shirt. I will say that. So the Avengers are on my shirt, but yes, I am rocking the Kansas City Chiefs. I've been rocking the Kansas City Chiefs all week and will continue to do so through the weekend.
I'm guessing you're thinking they're going for the three-peat.
I'm hoping so. It would be historic as a kid who grew up in Kansas City during some of our worst years. It has been just incredible to watch this resurgent.
He said so, and Fifth Jack saying so of the refs. It's always interesting when you're waiting for that next team to supplant the used to be hated Patriots in this. Well,
Yeah.
you can only win a sport so much before people say I hate them.
Yeah. So sorry.
Well, best of luck. I have no pony in this race. I will be rooting against the Eagles. I have no reason not to root for the Chiefs. It's just I'm just rooting against the Eagles. So if it ends up
We'll take it.
it doesn't affect me outside of it. The Eagles lose. So all right. Well, we got a lot of stuff to go over tonight. So let us break down these lovely network plugs. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 6 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our dollar tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows, including our show. We can watch this all day. The Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, where Brent and I watched the entirety of the Infinity Saga in chronological order, breaking it all down for you. And then our other show, Tales from the House of X, where we rewatched and gave our thoughts on our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. Both of those are on there. And we also have the DC Alliance guys doing their DC film through the years. We have Joe doing his Multiverse Minutes, Disney Dives, looking at on the 1st and 15th of every month, looking at in chronological order, every Disney animated feature. So check that out. We have a lot of back content out there. So patrons, we hope you're enjoying that. Again, we can't do this without your support. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network so you can watch and you can listen to all that lovely content. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, take about 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. And last, but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Earn points to get free books and discounts on that. We've gone over a lot of these for the new pre-orders at that point, but we're gonna take a little step outside. Not just Marvel; they have just launched their Distributor 2.0 sale. A number of these books you're watching live, going through Invincible, Young Justice, Batman Eternal, Marvel Zombies, Omnibus, Hulkmeister, a whole lot. Basically, I'm looking at this 6 pages worth of collected editions for 50% off at that discount. So check that out. It is going on for the next 17 days. And if you do see this little Simply for Watching Live, it says back order, yes, you can still order it. You'll still get the discount. The only time you don't get the discount and it immediately comes off is usually when it says sold out. So even if it says back order, it just means it'll take an extra week or two to get to their warehouse before it ships out, but you will still get your discount. So use that and use our code MarvelGUA at checkout to get an additional $2 off every single order. It lets them know you're a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, so before we break down a trailer, because we're going to do that first tonight, since that is the biggest story. Even though, yes, your friendly neighbor Spider-Man is new content. Let's to be honest, in the rank of where people are wanting to hear our thoughts probably more is Fantastic Four. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I was super excited to find out this trailer dropped. Now they did catch me off guard because I was told that it was going to be at one time and then it dropped an hour earlier, so I was rushing to work. It dropped like while I was in mid drive to work, so had to hold off and stay away from the internet until I could get to a private room with a nice big TV to watch this.
Yeah. So before we get a chance to break down, we've got something happening next week. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen is we do this for you the people. And listeners at that point. So you're going to get a double dose of Marvel Alliance. And so what's going to happen is David and I are going to record our next episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and more than likely, probably a Thunderbolts trailer. More than likely we'll do a quick breakdown of that as well. It's not going to be live. David and I haven't decided on exactly what time it's going to work out for both of us, but we will record Wednesday. That will drop at our normal time on Friday morning, so you have content with that. And then David and I will go live on Friday night, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time, to do our official spoiler review of what movie, David?
Captain America Brave New World. We are coming to you to spread the love of Captain America on Valentine's Day.
Yes, so we are abandoning our respective significant others, and I had to be the husband because telling my wife that she had us planned. We usually do fondue at the house, and she had it already saying, "Oh, fondue night," and I was like, we're not gonna be doing that on Friday night. And she says, "Why not?" I said, I've got a recording that night, right?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that," because I was like, we usually do Valentine's Day on Saturday, but I guess she reminded me last year we did it on Friday, so my bad. But luckily, she's amazing, and we are pivoting our dinner to Saturday night because I don't want to rush through a good dinner, especially on Valentine's Day. So yes. I'd rather do it the next day. She's awesome. So yes, we will be doing that on, again, Friday night, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. So I'm seeing it 7:10 next Thursday. I think you're obviously going to be seeing it before me.
Yeah. Well, yes, I will be an hour before you. Even with the time difference, I'm still an hour before you and the time that I will be seeing it. So I've got that one. And then I'm going to probably try and sneak out of work on Friday afternoon and see it one more time.
It's interesting. I have actually a teacher work day Monday, and I mean, it's that Friday and that following Monday. So I'm probably not going to get another watch in, but typically I don't anyways. So it'd be nice because I'm seeing it later. I don't have to feel like, I got to wake up the next morning and get to work early at that point. So thankfully not that. But all right. So again, we will be recording a new episode, not live on Wednesday. It drops on Friday morning. Our recording of live for our breakdown of Captain America: Brave New World will go live on 9:10 Eastern Standard Time on Friday. Audio will drop Saturday morning, so a double dose of Marvel Alliance. David and I will be very tired, but again, we will do it for you, the people. So, all right. So, David, you made sure you waited till you got into a beautiful big screen TV to watch that trailer. I, however, watched it on my phone at first, and then when I got home, watched it on a much more quality screen to see it at that point. High level thoughts before we break this down.
High level thoughts are I thoroughly enjoyed this. The futuristic yet past that they presented was, I was wondering how they would make it look. It looks great. I also thought that the thing looked great. I do know that there's still work to do. There's still a lot of missing VFX that they're still working on right now that I think will come closer towards the actual release date. But the overall look of the thing, just I was happy with that, and I was happy with the tone of the trailer. And considering that they have someone who has technically been in a Fast and Furious movie for the amount of times that they said the word family, rather happy.
I'm good with Vanessa Kirby saying family. It seems rather appropriate. Yeah, it was. I'm glad to kind of see some of the stuff in action. We'll kind of point out like one very glaring thing that has been not shown, and I think probably for good reason. I'd rather it be done right instead of rushing it and having, at least they're learning from, hopefully learning from. We can't put out things that are half done and expect people just to ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
So, um, Dalton asking, am I a teacher? I am not a teacher. Well, I'm a teacher in a different way, so we'll leave it at that. So, but what was interesting is that the the kind of 60s futuristic retro kind of look is it works. I was kind of very interested in seeing it in action, and it all kind of fits in this kind of different Earth. We don't know what Earth designation this is, but it is a different Earth separate from our own. Now we don't know if they're the only superheroes on this particular Earth at this point, but they're definitely the most popular at this point. Our good friend and friend of the show, Phil, let me know this week that when he went to SDCC, that a number of shots were actually the test footage that was seen at SDCC. He said that the Sue and Reed allowing the guy into the Baxter building was test footage that was shown at SDCC. Any grainy shots in astronaut gear, the rocket, any of those grainy shots is all test footage. And but yeah, some of those shots were reused at SDCC, so they actually looks like they might be actually in the proper movie. So yeah, it was just cool kind of seeing this and getting some more discussion with it. So what do you say? You want to start breaking this down?
Yes, sir.
So what was interesting though is they said coverage starts at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sorry, I wasn't I felt bad for people like Beatty who got up really early and thought they were actually show the trailer since they live on the West Coast. But it didn't say that the trailer would drop. It said coverage would start at 7 a.m. at that point. Remember, as Reacher says, details matter.
Yes.
But for days, Marvel Studios has been saying the trailer has been brought to you by the Future Foundation, which in the comics was a special school to help teach genius level kids. Now, my guess is maybe in the movie, if we're going to hear the Future Foundation, it may be kind of a think tank that Reed and Sue are leading up. So it's just a kind of interesting theory. So, you know, I'm wondering as we get ready to start watching this trailer, is Reed Richards responsible for a good chunk of the advanced technology in this kind of Earth that we're looking at? Like retro look, but all the future tech. What do you think?
I think it led to the feeling that yeah, he is the innovator of the new era in whatever world this
Mhm.
is. He is the person that people look to towards the advancements in science and technology. So and that's part of the reason why they are getting profiled as a family and trying to seem normal because they are probably the most famous family in the world right now for their scientific discoveries.
Yeah. Now, in the comics, Reed, Sue, and Johnny and Ben launch into space, and despite the government wanting to scrap the whole project, and when during their space run, they get hit with cosmic rays that give them special powers based on their personalities. Sue turns invisible because in comics Reed ignores her. Johnny turns into a flame, all flamed out because he's a hothead. Ben thinks of himself as an ugly brute and turns into a rock monster. And Reed's intelligence means he has a flexible mind, so he has stretch powers. So that's kind of how their comic accurate kind of portrayal works. So let's kind of start this trailer. As always, those of you watching live, sound is off. It is more miniaturized because we don't want to get demonetized because we're not as famous and awesome as some other YouTube channels, apparently, according to Marvel. So we open with this cool shot. We're inside the Baxter building, and look at some of these kind of images in the back of the skyscrapers. Everything in the Baxter building and outside in the world is retro future look. Now we see the Chrysler building and a few other new buildings and some like spire towers there. None of these buildings existed in the 1960s.
Right.
So, and so that's an interesting thing. So it'll be interesting to see like what kind of year this is on their Earth. So we get our first intro of Vanessa Kirby, Pedro Pascal, Reed Richards, Sue Storm. We don't know who this gentleman is that's being walked through the Baxter building. Pedro saying we make it a point to have dinner every single night, no matter what, at 7 p.m. I wonder when that's going to come and bite him. I think there's going to be a callback to that. Like they're all going to be like beaten up, downtrodden at that point, but they still show up 7 p.m. and having dinner. You gotta love like this is just like 60s what everyone thought the 60s were going to be like, or the future was going to be like in the view of the 60s, in the future from the 60s. And we get the Marvel logo in this interesting kind of retro look. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's got the old school feel to the Marvel Studios logo. It reminds me of the opening to Bewitched back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Taking that homage from the what would you say, WandaVision,
Yep.
But I wanted to make a quick call back to Reed and Sue in their, not necessarily suited up a lot of times until the very end. That's very comic accurate because even within the first issue, they did not suit up in the comics. So, oh, here we go. We get our first look at Herbie, the Fantastic Four's little robot butler, jack of all trades. And what do you say? Our first, we don't even get we don't spend a lot of time. We get like hints of the origin, but man, they just go into. We're seeing Ben Grimm, the ever loving blue eyed thing, played by Evan Moss Baccarat. So, what do you think? First look, he's suited up, which is also different because thing was suited up for a while, and it was only later on that he just went pure trunks. So,
Yeah.
what do you think of the look of not only Herbie? But Ben Grimm the Thing.
I like this look that we get here, not just of the thing, the way the rock forms around him. They've got the classic unibrow with the thing,
Mhm.
but also I like the way that his suit fits him. It looks snug in some places, so you can tell he's still rocking the same suit as everyone else. But he's a bigger guy, so it's fitting a little bit different on him. So I think overall, it's a great look for him in full costume.
Mhm. And for those that are not as familiar with the Fantastic Four and Herbie, Herbie stands for the Humanoid Experimental Robot B Type Integrated Electronics. So again, jack of all trades there. And we see, like you said, it is probably the most comic accurate Jack, like almost dead ringer for how Jack Kirby designed Ben Grimm's The Thing. Um, got down to the like you said, the wide forehead, the big baby blue eyes. He is Jewish, and smoking a stogie. I think maybe later on. I don't know. That'd be very much like thing. And I know people said, "Oh, him cooking in the kitchen." That's a callback to Evan Moss's character cousin in The Bear. Actually, not really, because very comic accurate. Ben Grimm cooked and many times was the main cook in the Fantastic Four. So that is the real callback to that. But that, him being Jewish, baby blue eyes, everything, that's Jack Kirby emulating himself. That's why it looks, that's why he kind of portrayed himself as that. Um, so I do like this kind of interaction he has. Now we don't really hear, like, we hear the boops and the beeps with Herbie, but a lot of rumors saying like we should be, having a voice to it. But what do you think about this? Like, it's, the eyes, this kind of, spinning wheels and everything like that. It's very interesting how they're making Herbie look for the era they're in.
Yeah, I like the design of Herbie. I like the quote unquote facial design. So it's different from the original comics where it was just buttons and like an LED across the face. This one has the more old school tape deck feel and things like that. So I really like this design. And yeah, I did also notice that the voice is missing. So that's probably something that we are going to have to wait for the movie itself in order to find out exactly who's doing that voice.
But I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm not knocking anything else, but man, they really nailed The Thing. Like I
Yeah.
like Michael Chiklis for what they did with him in those movies back then. It wasn't bad. It worked for the era, but man, they I can't wait to see this more in action. But I'm impressed. I am very very impressed. So giving a little zip to it, adding the cloves. All right, this is our first kind of look at Reed with this very wide look at Blackboard, which is interesting. You know, um, he's using this type of thing instead of like a computer, any kind of extra kind of special technology that he more than likely has. My guess is a couple of things. One, he's doing this because it grounds him in his roots. He's a genius level in tech, but this is how he's routed. But this is where we also think that it's done like this for a reason, and we're not seeing his stretch powers yet. They have not. That's not ready for prime time in many of our eyes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that with the long board that they have going on there and him just using the far right side of it, that this is probably a scene where he does use his powers, or they will be used at some point in this scene, maybe not the whole scene, but at least at some point as a show off. So it gives you that hint that this is there, but without showing you the powers yet. Because, like I said, I don't think that they have perfected that VFX yet, and I don't think that they want to release that until it is perfect.
Yeah. And so I agree with you on that. It's stretching powers are always kind of goofy looking to begin with, but they want to make sure that they've got it right. And if that's the way they held it back, I respect it. I look forward to seeing it in the next trailer because I don't think they're gonna go one more trailer without showing it.
Yeah.
Now, even though it's hard to zoom in on this one, I'm not the only one who saw this. A number of us saw this. That on the chalkboard there is a part of it where he looks to be working on multiversal travel where we see basically a wormhole that says enter and exit, with another pointing out to saying another universe near the exit. Is he discovering time travel? Is he discovering multiversal travel?
This may be the link that we get to the multiverse being brought onto a wider scale outside of what we've seen in Spider-Man and some other things. This may be how we fully get this version of the Fantastic Four into our MCU proper.
Yep. So we see this kind of, as I said, Phil pointed out to us that, a lot of this is the test footage that was shown at SDCC. I think it's going to be kind of like in a Spider-Man point of view. They're assuming the audience has a familiarity with the Fantastic Four already. They know how they got their powers, so it's going to be kind of back and forth with that. I don't think it's necessarily as ingrained in the general audience about the Fantastic Four's powers. I don't feel it's that, but I also am not saying they need to put it throughout it. I think I'm fine with flashbacks and references to it and things like that. I don't know. What do you think?
I like it. I also like the fact that every time they do one of these flashbacks, the aspect ratio changes and you go back more towards a 4:3 aspect ratio instead of the traditional 16:9 kind of widescreen. So as it's going through that, you see the newer scenes, and then whenever it cuts back to a flashback, and there's a couple of more flashbacks within this trailer, you'll notice that the screen differs and goes right back to that.
Yeah.
So I thought that they gave it a good old school feel.
And I'll even go back to that because you see that in the beginning of it and see the kind of the graininess there too. To your point, like you're saying, look what happens. Widens out. And if I got to even point out, we see our first look at the Baxter building on the exterior. So let me hit back there. So we get our look at the rocket ship at that point, which is very much as Jack Kirby designed it, instead of an extra rocket thing launching them up. We see Reed talking about, before you went up the first time, you didn't turn invisible. Jockey didn't turn into flames. Ben wasn't a rock. He's having guilt. You don't see that a lot about Reed in portrayed until recently. He's not one to hold guilt, especially that early on. Sue turning invisible. How do you like Ben in his classic trench coat and hat? With clothes too. Usually you just see Ben walking around with just a trench coat and a hat, no clothes. But seeing what he used to look like.
Yeah, I love this scene. When Reed is saying the best pilot in the world right here, and Ben responds back talking about he's the most handsome, and then it flashes to how he views himself now as the Rock. But that visualization of Ben dressed in the suit, because we see that a lot in the comics when he's just walking around town. I mean, he's fully dressed up. He's got the coat on and everything else. He's got the hat on. And so to have that accurate portrayal of him and for it to still look good within the character.
Mm-hmm. Seeing what he looks like, and Johnny going out there. Now, some people pointed out, like saying, wait a minute, he went, now we're more than likely going to hear Flame on at some point, and we're going to hear its clobber in time. But a lot of people point out, wait a minute, why didn't Johnny's clothes burn off? Now, going into the comics at this point, Reed Richards had designed, a lot of the suits and a lot of the clothing. He invented what's called unstable molecules to adapt to their power sets. So this could be why Johnny's clothes don't burn off necessarily. And a lot of the heroes in the Marvel Universe, their suits are based off of the Reed Richards invention of unstable molecules that adjust to power sets. But what do you think of Johnny's flame powers? How do they look?
The flames look amazing. The way that they flow off of him, it gave the old school look of the flames rolling down his body as he's flying. I really like that, seeing him jumping off the balcony and just going at it. I do think that they're holding the flame on saying for actual theater usage, because that's something that's going to give you a pop. So you want to hold on to that.
He's going to say it. Avengers flame on. What the? Ben has always been a rock. Mm-hmm. Johnny is, Johnny. Johnny testing the limits of his powers. And I like how Sue says, I'm right here. Now, Sue's the heart of the family. And if rumors are to be believed and the scoopers are true, the true focus of this movie, the main protagonist of the movie is going to be Sue Storm. Now, Sue Storm is the most powerful team member of the Fantastic Four as the Invisible Woman, because she can create invisible, like just these invisible shapes, everything like that, but she can create an invisible bubble in your head and just go pop, and Bob's your uncle, you're dead. So I don't know if we're gonna necessarily see her go that, but she is the most powerful person on the team. But the interesting thing is, like, Reed is the smartest man in the world, but has no emotional intelligence. And that's why Sue's the heart of the family. She understands everyone and holds them together.
I love this scene right here with Johnny testing the limits of his powers. He goes up in space. There's no oxygen to feed the fire, and then he just has that moment of realization before he makes the descent back down.
And others are saying, you'd be dead at that point.
Yeah.
So going back down now, a lot of people are wondering, oh, this is the coming of Galactus. Well, not so sure about that. If we go by comics at this point, this might be the beginning of us seeing maybe live action Uatu, voiced by Jeffrey Wright. Because in the comics, with him knowing the arrival of Galactus and the Silver Surfer, his arrival, he put all these kind of flames and meteorites around there to distract the Silver Surfer, to warn and no longer watch but interfere and give a heads up to the coming of Galactus.
Yeah, as we know from What If, the Watcher stays not just watching.
Yep. So gotta love those little hats. I mean, again, they are celebrities. They are in this. So our first look at the Fantastic Car. I'm pretty confident we're gonna see this fly. Ben in full action. All right, we get our first look at John Malkovich. We still do not know who his character is. Some people are saying he may be playing the Red Ghost. In the comics, the Red Ghost is a Russian scientist that basically tries to replicate what Reed Richards and the rest of his team had happened to him with the cosmic rays hitting him. He is then given those power sets, and his mind links with three apes that are like family to him. He's a very frequent flow of the Fantastic Four. Some people say he could be Mole Man, or even Doctor Doom's loyal servant Boris, I heard ringing out there. So I don't know, but he's looking pretty disheveled. I've also heard he could be Sue and Johnny's dad.
Yeah. The bald head with the long white hair around would lead towards the Red Ghost, but the beard kind of throws that off. So we'll have to wait and see exactly who he's going to be. They've been keeping a lot of things pretty close to the vest with this in casting.
And you know what? I'm like that Key and Peele thing. Oh, I've been waiting for this. Ooh, I've been waiting for this. I can't wait. I've been waiting for this so long. The Shadow, and I was like, oh, is that all we're gonna? Nope.
We get
a back view. I'm okay with that. It's not a fart cloud or anything at that point. We get a back look view of Galactus looking back. People are saying, "Oh, he's not as big as I thought." I'm just basking in this. We're gonna see Galactus.
Not as big. He is staring down the Statue of Liberty like it is a toy.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of different things. Now, we haven't seen our look. We're not seeing our first look at Silver Surfer. Galactus in the comics was, the origin of Galactus is named Galen, that existed in a universe before ours. After his universe was ended, he was reborn into Galactus, who devours planets. Now, he's moved on in the current comics to from a more of a villain to a force of nature to keep balance. In fact, in future timelines, it's revealed that he devoured worlds and was in order to keep Celestials at bay. The Silver Surfer, who we're going to be introduced to in this film, originally was done like a creation of Galactus, of pure energy. However, that changed with Stan Lee. When Silver Surfer solo comic launched, he created a new origin that he wasn't just a creation of Galactus. He was actually a man named Norrin Rad who bargained with Galactus to save his planet and to return to be his herald. Um, when Jack Kirby found out about this, he was furious, and it is one of the many reasons he left Marvel to head to DC Comics and create some very similar creations of ideas that he was going to use at Marvel, such as that would later become Darkseid, the Fourth World, the New Gods, things like that. This was one of the many things that caused the split between Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He is going to be voiced and portrayed by Ralph Ineson. I don't know if we're going to get more of a look of Ineson in motion capture with the eyes, things like that. But if you don't know who Ralph Ineson is, just YouTube and listen to that voice. That is your voice of Galactus, and it is perfect. Perfection. Perfect down to the last ounce. Just perfect. Every little detail about that. I'm very excited to finally hear his first voice in it. So continuing on, and we will do this as a family. And that's when Dom breaks in and said, yes! He's actually their chauffeur of the Fantastic Car. And we get our first full shot, Fantastic Four in costume with that kind of orchestrate, the chorus saying Fantastic Four by the great Michael Giacchino. Yeah. I thought this was good. I'm not like saying like, oh, this is the best trailer ever. It goes with the teaser, minute 30. They didn't claim it as a teaser and say it was like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. It definitely piqued my interest. I'm looking forward to the next trailer that'll give more of a story. Hopefully, seeing and hearing Galactus a little bit more, seeing Mr. Fantastic's powers. I thought it was a good trailer. Not great, not terrible. I thought it was a good trailer, a good teaser.
Same. It served its purpose. It got me excited for the upcoming movie. It got me excited for where they can do with Fantastic Four. It didn't blow me away. I wasn't sitting here going, yes, Marvel's back. We're back, baby. No, but it was enough to go, all right, this looks like they're going to be doing this justice. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this direction. And just seeing the way that the thing is portrayed throughout the trailer, this was to me a show off piece of what they've done with the thing. And then to have that moment with Galactus, I'm like, all right, cool. We don't have a cloud. We've got a full body. Let's rock.
Yep. Yeah. Fifth Jack saying about Thing. I like the way he looks too. It's solid, rock solid. You would say very good. I appreciate that. Julio saying maybe Johnny is chasing the Silver Surfer, but either way, that they don't. They don't have CGI ready. Yeah, I think we're all saying that. Dalton saying one full camp it. And Julio saying there was a bad take on X that said Galactus should be Thanos level villain. He's a major world-ending threat. I mean, when it comes down to it. So Thanos level, like Galactus isn't a schemer. He's not a plotter. He's anything like that. He just does. Like I like the way he's kind of transitioned in the comics in the sense of a force of nature.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like he hungers. And he has the Herald, in this case, the Silver Surfer, looking for planets to devour. And right now, their Earth is on the docket for that. So, but yeah, we'll have to see. I think our next look at the trailer, I could see Thunderbolts would be our next view of this. Or they're going to hold off and release the new trailer around SDCC. But I think that might be a little late at that point.
I think Thunderbolts is a good shout.
Well, anyway,
for that.
It would be late because it's releasing that, so of course it's going to be too late. I think Thunderbolts will be our last trailer, yeah. So, well, no, I take it back. That'll be May. So yeah, tickets to come out. No, that'd be probably the tickets one at that point. Tickets go on sale at that point. Dalton says, "Do you think their universe is toast, or will they come to 616 for it?" Hold off. I have a I have a factor fiction for that. So Dalton, you may be onto something. So, all right, we're going to take our first ad break because we have 3 episodes of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to break down. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, these ads help keep the lights on in Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They could be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. I was trying to channel a little bit of the New Age Outlaws there.
I appreciate the wrestling reference. I got it.
There we go. I appreciate it. See, I understood that reference. Yeah, back in my formidable days of Hollywood wrestling. Check out the gimmick on the Geekverse podcast channel. All right, so 3 episodes. We're going to probably kind of spin through these a little bit, since we've got 3. We got 3 next week, and then 2 more after that, and that's it, if memory serves.
Yep.
All right, so episode 3, Secret Identity Crisis. So we're picking up right where we left off. Norman tells Peter that he knows he's Spider-Man, but won't reveal his secret, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow. And which after a brief interlude with an annoyed but forgiving Nico, we get as Peter meets Norman at Eden, a fancy restaurant, and the billionaire has completely bought out for the entire night. And that's when Norman reveals, like I thought last week, like he had an inkling that, this whole thing, he didn't know he was Spider-Man, but he was one of the ones he thought was Spider-Man. So this whole internship was basically trying to figure out who was Spider-Man. That's why Amadeus Cho and all the rest of them, including Peter, was there. Because, again, love him or hate him, Norman Osborn's not necessarily an idiot.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that the Peter stopping the van from the bus footage is a callback to Civil War, because that's the same footage that Tony Stark showed Peter, the I know it's you, I know what you can do footage.
Yeah, and I like it that Peter tries to convince him that Spider-Man footage is just a prank, even though, like, he says, oh, yeah, order anything on the menu at that point.
Yeah.
But Norman knows it's him. And not only that, it reveals Peter saved his son, Harry Osborn, back at the series premiere, and he wants to upgrade his suit, help him. But Peter wants to keep Norman safe and declines, saying that he knows the more people that want to help him put himself in danger. And Norman's like, I'm Norman Osborn. Who can hurt me? And that he's going to quit the internship. But Norman says, why don't you think about it? If you do come back, if you do reconsider, the position's still there for you. In fact, I want to pay you for your days of service, which I'm sure his check was way more than any of us ever had an internship being paid for at that point. Meanwhile, we get 2 criminals, Maria Vasquez and James Saunders, they look kind of sneaking around, and they're basically told to put this bag of money in a dumpster to get something. And they kind of go back and forth. They eventually do it, and the dumpster turns into a robot, climbs up a wall, and leaves them with a suitcase containing what turns out to be speed boots and high light knife gauntlets. I'm going to call it Razor Blade 2.0.
Yeah.
It's going to be Razor Fist. Remember Razor Fist? Razor Fist. A-list villain from Shang-Chi. Razor Fist. And so we'll get back to them in a second. So back with Peter, he discovers that Aunt May is selling their stuff to make rent, including Uncle Ben's old camera, which Peter hangs on to. So, it's just, I love it that we still, this is another show that's just treating us like we know what happened to Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Dalton says, don't forget Taserface. Yep.
It's the tale that everyone knows, so you don't have to spend an entire episode rehashing it every single time.
But happened in it differently, because in the comics, like, he had already gotten his powers before so Uncle Ben was killed before that. So we'll just have to see, or just died. We don't know. We're assuming he was killed.
Yeah.
Could have just died, But selling his stuff, selling actually the sewing kit that
for a home ec project.
For home ec project, exactly. So at school, Lonnie's trying to buy lunch for everyone, but realized trying to be the nice guy, thanking everyone, but finds out he's low on cash. And and just basically make sure that everyone else has lunch and he gets an apple. But, he eventually gets a call from his mom, and he gets Pearl to say, "You got to take me home." Okay. You don't just get to walk off school, just go home after, during lunch. That's that. I just love it like that. Yeah, just take me home. Yeah, you could totally just do that. That's totally a thing.
Yeah, I've worked in education for many years, and I have not worked in any district or facility where you could just go, "See ya, I'm out." Especially in the middle of New York, just yeah, that's not how that works.
I would particularly love it when kids turn 18 years old and would tell me, "I'm 18, I can sign myself up." No, that's not how that works. Do you know the
Nope.
word emancipation? What's that? And that is why you're not signing yourself out. So when he gets home, Lonnie finds out that his brother, Andre, had been arrested for vandalism. Andre isn't hanging out, though. He basically slips out the window to pull a fast one on his parents because you didn't think that wasn't going to happen. So where he's involved in the gang, and what gang is he involved in?
He's with the 110th Street Gang, serving under Big Dom.
Uh-huh.
So Lonnie decides to go after his brother because, superstar quarterback, he's trying to make a way for his family, and he sees his mom is in dire feeling about her son being escorted home by the police, and dad was outside talking to the cops, trying to smooth everything over. And so now Lonnie's going to go get his brother.
Yeah, and so he goes back down there, and it's one of those things, like, we kind of saw how this was going to go. Like, even we talked about it last week. Like, we knew something was going to be stopping, like, turning Lonnie, to protect something, to do something. Like, he was going to get involved in something that was going to take him down a dark path. And he puts himself saying, "Well, let my brother go. You can have me." And I was just like, oh, that's not going to go great. So head back to Spider-Man. Spider-Man is now, taking on these super-powered street-level thugs, Maria and James, better known in the comics as Speed Demon. Remember Speed Demon? A-list Speed Demon along with Razor Fist. And gets his butt handed to him, royally Spider-Man. And that's when all of a sudden, not the voice of God, but who starts piping in?
The voice of Norman Osborn, who has taken over company satellites.
Yeah,
Get in his ear and kind of give him some help.
Yeah, what did he start giving him advice on? Like, how to take him down? What did he say?
So he's, being as he's one of the smartest men in the world and, is well versed in technology, he was noticing some things with their fight patterns, how they were staying away from each other, and giving them tips on how to use that against each other. So while Speed Demon and Maria, who I believe is actually the Tarantula from the comics, one of the heroes from Higher, as they're fighting, Peter starts noticing and listening to Norman, who says, "Hey, their suits don't work well together, so they have to keep their distance. Get them close, they'll offset, you can have an advantage." And so Peter decides to actually listen and go for that.
Yep, and he listens for that, and then just causes chaos, ends up taking him down at that point, and they're able to get captured, and he heads back to Norman. And Norman, before he comes in, is looking close at the footage and sees like this symbol. This looks like an infinity symbol on it, which is kind of interesting considering what we later find out at the end of the next episode. It's just like, why are we branding yourself? Like, it's kind of like I always talk about, like, the Riddler at that point. Why are you giving clues to find out, like, what this is? Like, it's always been one of those things like, oh, it's the journey. It's to prove how much are. You're giving them the answers, bud.
I wonder who this could be. Oh, maybe this big corporation that has branded their signature right here on the device.
Yeah, at that point, Fifth Jack saying, anyone else get Batman Beyond vibes between Peter and Norman? Yeah, maybe. A little bit. Not bad. And so he goes back to meet up with Norman, and eventually Peter says, you know what? Okay, you helped me out. let's do this. Let's strike up a partnership and strike up a beginning of a beautiful friendship to be determined. You
Yep.
know, so that ends that episode. Good episode, I'd say. Again, kind of started picking up the pace from as we started getting into more what I was hoping we would look into, and I think it kind of really picks up the pace in episode 4, hitting the big time. And I like the use of big time because that was a whole storyline in the Spider-Man comics as well. So after the disastrous, so he's giving a presentation, and Peter really sucks at giving a presentation. Not just reading off note cards, having absolutely no confidence. And Bentley Whitman actually tears into him. And people say, oh, what a jerk. He's got a lot of good points.
Yeah.
It's not just a presentation, but you notice this. When Peter is doing that presentation, he has absolutely no confidence of, doesn't do anything. But when he's Spider-Man, he has all the confidence in the world, all the quips in the world, things like that. So he needs to find a way to bring in a little bit of Spider-Man confidence into the Peter Parker way. But again, it follows where Peter is in his own life, at that stage of his life.
Yeah, but Dr. Whitman, he was not wrong in anything he said. One of those things, he's like, he's out of line, but he's right.
Yep, exactly. And anyone else find it weird that Norman keeps on calling up Peter Parker? No one asked questions. But I did like the, Connors calls out Whitman saying, so basically what you're saying is the stuff I'm involved in is terrible. It's like just putting him down into place.
Yeah.
So Osborn's been working on hard developing new suits for his protege. And, they're one of 4 suits we get to see in here that he wore in the 1998 crossover Identity Crisis. And the first, when Spider-Man was wanted for murder, we're going to see another one. As we talked about last week, we saw this in the intro of the Slingers. Well, he's going to start getting them. The first one he's going to wear is Prodigy. The Prodigy suit, which finds Spidey, the most ridiculous looking suit I could ever imagine for anyone. Like, this is basically like every superhero cliche put into one.
But it tested well.
Yeah, it tested well, right? Didn't test well when put into action, as the cape got caught up and the thugs kind of gave it to Spider-Man at that point, and all I could hear was
Edna Moe.
Yep, saying, no capes, no capes. This is why.
That was my exact thought when he was singing there and they're beating him. All I could think about was Edna.
No capes. So then they try out the Hornet suit, which flies nicely, but its weapons are way too focused and way too almost deadly for him to deal with at that point. And Peter really can't control the flying mechanic at that point, despite Norman saying, "Oh, it frees up your arms and your web slingers."
Yeah,
that doesn't work. Then they finally try the Dusk suit, which is so terrifying when he tries. I like it. Did you notice a couple times they kept on making Spider-Man be like this speed thing, and that's not really Spider-Man-esque, but they kind of made it like that, particularly with the Dust suit. And all he is it's the claws.
Yeah.
Besides just being all in black, giving her back her balloon, and she's like, get away from me.
Scares the poor kid. Just trying to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but scaring the mess out of the kid.
Yep, trying to go for that comic book It Clown, So, and not quite right at that point. Norman iterates something that's, eventually something that's closer to the Future Foundation suit with upgrades. Though it's still not quite right. At least it's interpreting Peter Parker's feelings nicely. Now, this is where we start getting where we are in this universe's timeline. The motivation for Norman here is to help clarify what's going on. Like we see the TV talking about, the fight with the Avengers over the Sokovia Accords at the airport. And so we see that playing out in this world. And, Peter asked, am I going to have to register? He said, let me worry about that. So we kind of have at least from MCU adjacent, where we are in their timeline of this,
Now, did you notice that one of the news networks that was referenced? So he's watching multiple news things. So there's
Yeah.
the world news that is talking about what happened in Lagos, which was the Black Widow incident.
Yep.
There's WHIH, which is the news station from the MCU proper. Then there's ZCN, which is the news station from the Netflix shows.
Yep.
So the it's all coming together. I'm like, yes, please. And with the fact that we have confirmed that Daredevil Charlie Cox will be in this, I'm hoping that we get some pullover with that.
Yeah. So, we kind of get that idea. So that's more Norman's motivation now. Over with Lonnie, he's trying to keep things normal despite now working for Big D, Big Donovan, that's part of the 110 gang. And they set him up by sending him to get burritos at a rival territory, and the rival gang is the Scorpions. Who runs the Scorpions? Why, Matt Gargan, known as the Scorpion in the comics, my least favorite Venom. And his second command is Camilla Black, who known as the Scorpion in the comics as well. Excuse me, not sorry. Also known as Scorpion. Yeah, Scorpion in the comics. Fun fact. So they both were playing Scorpion at one time or another. One female, one male. Lonnie gets chased by the Scorpions. He escapes and sets a new status quo with Big Donovan. He'll no longer be a pawn. He wants to work with the 110 to keep his family safe. As the capper, the three members of we start seeing this like Russian gang, trying to make this escape at that point, and we see a number of individuals who are kind of talk about who some of these individuals are, because when you see their names in the credits, they have comic book origins as well. And so they escape. They try to escape. Not all of them escape. The one female is able to escape and meets up with someone asking for the tech that they were trying to go for. Instead of they, needing some help, and out of the shadows steps in this person who has been creating this tech all this time, and in very comic book accurate look, probably looks very spitting, we get our first look at Dr. Otto Octavius, Doc Ock.
Yes, I love the detail of the comic accurate suit when he stepped out.
It was very impressive. Now we did see, the Future Foundation suit for Spider-Man, I believe, in this episode, right? I can't remember if it was this episode or not.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I have gone on record earlier that I am not a fan of the Future Foundation suit. It is one of my least favorite Spider-Man suits. But they did make a change in this one. Instead of black accents, blue. And I actually do like the blue accents on this suit. Just a quick collection. If our Geekverse brethren are listening, the review saying it's like the anti-Venom suit, no, Future Foundation.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what did you think of adding the blue accents to it?
I thought it gave it some difference. And Peter goes on to say that his color preference, and even at one point when he walks in and Norman's saying, "I have some suit ideas for you," he's got his drawn up of the actual Spider-Man suit. So him having the blue, and Norman saying that this suit is more to you, so it's got those blue flares to it. So I thought that was a nice little touch to give it that separation.
Yeah. And also when he comes in and talks to Norman Osborn, he's like, and he ends up accidentally revealing he is who Spider-Man is Peter Parker, even though Harry has no idea who Peter Parker really is at this point. That was another revelation. So yeah, we end with Harry finding out who Spider-Man is, and Doc Ock revealed as the creator of a number of these. So before we head to the final episode, and we'll do an ad break before we get to that final episode, we get a number of people who are part of this show, of that crew, that have comic book origins. Ariana Quinsett, who voices Camilla Black, Matt Gargan second in command. Actually, not one was looking. Where is that? Oh yeah, speaking of returning bad, Roger Craig Smith voices Demetrius Sokorovkov, better known as the Chameleon in the comic books. So we got the Chameleon in here
with the gloves on.
With the gloves on, yep. Travis Willingham voices Mikhail Cervetix, who in the comics is the father of Alexis Derva, better known as the Rhino, and that is our bulking guy. That is and so I'm. What do you want to think? We're either going to see Rhino come back as the Rhino, and we're going to see Chameleon again.
Oh, we're definitely going to be seeing these guys again, especially the way that this mini arc ends. I think we're definitely going to be seeing both the Rhino and Chameleon.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let us take our final ad break before we break down this final episode, The Unicorn Unleashed. So, as you know, listeners, these ads keep the lights on at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, final episode of this 3-episode set, The Unicorn Unleashed. So at the end of the last episode, we discovered the season's, at least one of the season's big bads, Dr. Otto Octavius, who I'm thinking is tied to Norman Osborn because he was looking really close at that, and I think he recognizes exactly what that symbol is. So many times, Otto has been tied to Norman Osborn as a former employee. He's giving the female criminal from the gang tour, and basically gives her this helmet that has a laser on it at that point. What's it's kind of like Dr. Evil. Let's give sharks with laser beams on their foreheads,
Yeah, this helmet has the power to mimic someone's fighting abilities,
Yep.
and it also has the laser out of it turning her into the unicorn.
Yep. Mila Masaryk is her name in there, aka the Unicorn. Interestingly enough, we get like his little underling that his little assistant that's with Otto Octavius. In the comics, that character is actually a character we have seen already in the MCU.
And She-Hulk.
She-Hulk, that would be Leapfrog. So yes, that is Osborn's assistant, Leapfrog. So while she heads off to free her gang from prison, Peter and Harry are moving in an awkward meeting after Harry finding out who Spider-Man really is. Norman, knowing he won't always be there for Spidey, basically pawns off his son on him, saying, "Yeah, you two have just met. You can figure this out. You could be the guy in the chair." And or the dude at the desk.
Dude at the desk.
Dude at the desk. Yep. So while the two teens are awkwardly striking up a friendship, Nico feels kind of left out, and things get worse by the end of the episode when Peter invites Harry to go see a movie with them without necessarily asking her. So Nico's feeling further pushed away. The Unicorn eventually frees her compatriots and ends up tangling with Spider-Man, and even gets the upper hand, almost killing him. It's almost with the intervention of Mikhail. Mikhail is the father of the Rhino, as I pointed out there before. Basically becomes the Rhino there and helps Spider-Man survive the attack and beats the Unicorn together. And basically says, "We're even. Don't expect me to help you out again. Don't let me see you again." But he basically says, "I'm turning myself back in. I'm gonna do what I need to do and eventually get out." Now the main kind of dramatic heft comes from Lonnie Lincoln, who is at the breaking point with Big D and the One Tang gang. He's ignoring them. He's basically playing with fire with his football team at this point too.
Yeah, he's been missing practices and not showing up for the team. Like, his teammates are joking with him, putting up missing signs, but his coach is like, "Hey, you've got potential and you are about to squander this. I can only cover for you so much." And as someone who has played sports in the past and who has also coached youth football in the past, I know you missed so many practices. You're not playing. You're not playing. Scouts aren't seeing you.
Well, particularly this coach, because he is super fan. Remember super fan? Remember we talked about super fan? So, no, yeah, exactly. So this coach is being a little as lenient as possible, but I guarantee you by the next set, he's going to be kicked off the team. So, so he ends up kind of, the gangs come together. The 110 meets up with the Scorpions. We meet finally Matt Gargan for the first time. And we basically go, full on gang war at that point. Big Don almost gets a knife from Matt Gargan, but Lonnie tackles him and gets stabbed in the arm in the process. Mac Gargan gets stabbed. It was Mac that gets stabbed, or was it Lonnie that gets stabbed?
Lonnie gets
Okay, Lonnie
stabbed
gets
in
stabbed.
his left arm, so I'm guessing that is his non-throwing arm. But he takes the knife shot for him, and then Matt is going to finish him off before they say, "Hey, we got to go. The cops are coming. This kid isn't worth it."
Yeah. So the fight breaks up, and after Lonnie expresses he hates being called superstar, Big Don decides to give him a new nickname, Lonnie the Tombstone. So
and Lonnie gives a little
credits.
smile. He likes that.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's interesting like that one, and I'm gonna make a note because I love this show, and I know original host of the show, Travis Snell. We have a Hannibal reference, Mr. Snell. I know you may not be watching this anymore, but Hugh Dancy, Will Graham, is the voice of Otto Octavius in this show.
Law and Order, sir. Law and Order.
No.
Hey. No, Hugh Dancy is also in Law and Order.
I'll go with Will. I go with Will Graham. Hannibal all the way. I don't even know what season of Law and Order was that.
he's on the current season of Law and Order, regular Law and Order, not SVU, regular Law and Order. He's the assistant district attorney.
Okay, well, I can't even remember the last time I watched Law and Order. I even fell off SVU. It just got to the point of just like, all right, here we go.
That is my guilty pleasure show.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I just got too formulaic for me. So I just got too many tie-ups ripped from the headlines. I was like, when is it not? But I was at one point an SVU junkie. So, but yes, Will Graham, Hugh Dancy is the voice of Otto Octavius. So, all right. Well, what'd you think? You know, you and I both had a similar opinion of the first two episodes. What do you think? Did these episodes kind of raise your opinion of the show? Is it raising to still the illustrious level that's the reviewers are still saying the show is at for them?
It is not on God tier level. It is not even A level yet, but it is rising with each arc. It is progressing upwards. I'm liking the character development. There are some tropes that I'm just like, okay, like come on now, especially with how did Peter not know that Harry was in the room with Norman when he just pops in there to say his secret identity? But other than that, it's been a good show, and I'm excited to see where we continue to go.
And I want to say this before I think there's also another very famous voice actor in this, voice actress that is. Sarah Natoceni is the voice of the unicorn. If you got a sense that the unicorn wanted to be the very best that ever was, that's because that is also the voice of Ash Ketchum. Gotta catch them all.
Hey, he won the Pokemon League and now went off to go catch a Spider-Man.
Yeah. So they're pulling some decent talent with this at that point too. So yeah, I would say this definitely raises in comparison. You know, again, the first two episodes kind of establish everything. I've gotten used to the animation. It's really not, you know, you just kind of get lost in it. I think it still works for what the show is. It's not the best, not the worst. It's just different for what it is. It definitely raised we started moving on to get more action. It's okay. I think the show just right now is just okay. And you know what? That's fine. I wouldn't have, I can't compare it on, it's just two different levels. We talked about it last week. You can't compare it to X-Men 97.
Yeah.
You can't compare it to Invincible. You can't compare it to a lot of things. It just is. And you know what? Okay is okay. You know, so far, I haven't recommended the show as a must-watch to other people, just because there's too much to watch. And, you know, I know Invincible dropped today. I'll be watching that this weekend. It just doesn't rise to that level yet. But again, we still got 5 more episodes, 3 next week, 2 the following week. So we'll see exactly what it is. But like we said last week, it's slated for 2 more seasons. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. It hasn't rose to the occasion of I need to wake up at 5 a.m. and watch it on the 75-inch. Like that, it's not there for me yet. It's not calling my name like certain other shows where I have to see this in as glorious of high definition as I can.
Well, I wake up at 5 a.m. to go for a run and do my exercising at that point. So and then I watch it after I get back from it. So I am not purposely waking up for that show. They
Yeah,
just keep me occupied while eating my cereal and having breakfast.
my,
So
my 5 a.m. is straight to the gym, or on the weeks when I have the kids, it's making sure that I get them up at 6 and start our day.
yeah,
But other than that, yeah, I'm not rushing to this. This is a come home, make dinner, then sit on the couch and watch it while they
bec-
go and play Fortnite.
because you want to be the very best, the best you ever was. There we go. Sorry, I'm got the zingers left and right tonight. Pivot Jack saying Invincible is a solid start. All right. I'm also enjoying Spider-Man though. Yep. Oh, thank you for the non-spoilers at that point. I'm looking forward. We got 3 episodes to watch about that. So, all right. So, like we said, next week we're not live with our reviews, but again, you'll be seeing them. You'll be hearing them on Friday morning. So let us head into feedback. Feedback for the show. So, David, can you read the feedback for this week while I pull up Factor Fictions from last week so I have that ready to go?
Yep. Just here. All right. So, question from Anthony Dorsey. Which will last longer in their respective movie universe? The Fantastic Four sweater costumes or the white and four suits that Mr. Fantastic, Hawk Girl, and Guy Gardner have in Superman? So,
I
that
say, yeah, I say it's Fantastic Four that's going to last longer.
I agree. I think Fantastic Fours will be probably throughout the movie. If this does end with universe hopping, I think that is when they will get an upgrade. But I think as long as it stays in that futuristic 60s era, this is the costume that we will stick with. With the exception of Mr. Terrific, I think that everyone else in Superman it will get some sort of costume upgrade within their universe. But I definitely think Fantastic Four, like that look is going to be iconic for them.
Yeah. Um. All right. So, yep. I that's what I think. But thank you, Anthony News, for writing in this week. So that's all the questions we got for this week. So we got Factor Fictions. You had yours up last week, David. So first one, we will get 5 superhero related trailer teasers during the Super Bowl. 44% said fact, 56% fiction. Probably at the time you thought a Fantastic Four trailer was counted in the mix.
Yeah, they're already shooting that down.
Yep. So bam. Number 2. Cyclops will be the first official new X-Men announced and begin his official era of being wrong in the MCU.
I don't remember that last part being on my statement.
I didn't say it had to be. I just can't help it. Every time you put that nonsense out there, I've got to strike back with it. And here's the thing: 71% said fact, 29% said fiction. The real question is, are they agreeing with the first part or agreeing with everything? I'm going with they may agree with both at that point. So therefore, you and I both win. I just want to reiterate: beginning his official era of being wrong in the MCU.
Cyclops was right.
And wrong. Number 3. There will be one major death in episode 1 of Daredevil Born Again. 63% said fact, 37% said fiction. All right, so my turn this week. All Fantastic Four related because I love doing themes, especially when we have good stuff to talk about. So, all right, number 1. We will see variants of Earth 616 characters, major and or supporting, on the Fantastic Four's Earth.
I am going to say that is a fact.
Okay.
I think this is a perfect time to pull out some variants that you don't ever have to use again. I think this will kind of be like Doctor Strange and Multiverse Madness, where here's your little freebie. We'll give you some variants before, and this is your one and only with your exposure to them in this timeline. So I'm gonna go fact on that.
This when I wrote this one, I kind of had one way I was thinking, and then the more I thought about it, saying, you know what, I could see them doing something that everyone expects them to do. Everyone thinks they're going to do that, and then not. And so I'm going to go fiction on this, because as I said, like everyone expects that. Everyone's going to do this. What if this is a world truly devoid of any other heroes, any other kind of major ones at that point, and they are it. They are the heroes of this stuff. There is no one else that compares to them. Now people say, "Oh, what about the Doctor Doom?" I'm separating Doctor Doom, Tony Stark. That's we're just gonna push that off to the side just because I that's already been kind of confirmed, but we don't know if he is or his is not. We're all kind of thinking he probably is in one way. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna say fiction on this. Not a hard fiction, but I kind of want to be just contrarian on this one and just see does Marvel, does Kevin Feige, do they have the guts not to go those random cameos and do it like that? Because it just seems it would just be a interesting way just to see like what happens if there's no other characters that we have any reference point and just give the Fantastic Four this is their movie, you know?
Yeah, I think it'd be a bold move for them, but it could pay off. I mean, it give them all the shine without having those extras. So yeah,
Because that's what a lot of people sometimes get a little eye rolly about with the MCU. It's everyone's waiting for that cameo, everyone's waiting for that stem. So let's do a movie without that cameo. Even with the obvious one that people are expecting with Doctor Doom, I'm just going to separate that off the table. So,
yeah.
and I'll even put that in there, excluding, Doctor Doom, Tony Stark, if he's too early to be in it, and on that. Dalton saying, I think if we see other MCU characters, it's in a post credits. Yep, and that's where I think both of us are kind of thinking Doctor Doom would be.
Yeah.
So, next one, Dalton, you kind of hinted at this, so here we go. The Fantastic Four will lose and lose big against Galactus, and their world is consumed by him, and they will be forced to escape through the wormhole that Reed is proposing in his kind of theory chart on the chalkboard, and that is what will take them and propel them to Earth 616.
I'm gonna go fact on that. I don't like them losing their opening bout, but you know what? It's probably what's best for the story. So yeah, I'm gonna go fact on that. It's the best way to get them out of this world, best way to put them in the MCU as a whole. So yeah,
Because this one will lead me to my final one, my final fact or fiction. I'll only say yes because it leads me to this final one because it'll start motivation at that point. So in the comics, the Fantastic Four are able to defeat Galactus because of the device that Reed creates called the Ultimate Nullifier, which is like this weapon that could basically not only erase Galactus, but if misused, it can erase existence. I just don't. I can see this going two ways. They're able to defeat Galactus, convince him not to be there because he ends up going away because he's too scared to even be taken down by the Ultimate Nullifier, and then more, kind of like a Tony Stark, kind of like creating, time travel. Let's experiment and they end up on our world. But I like the idea that they're able to defeat everything that they've been able to defeat, but when they face something so epic that they try everything and they fail. But then I could hear people saying, "Oh, great! This group of people that I don't think anyone's saying that they're the best of the best at that point. They fail against this." I said, "But what an interesting story, that's something again. Marvel subverting expectations. Everyone thinks they're gonna win. What if they don't? What if it happens that they are now refugees and are forced to be in our world in the Earth 1616 sacred timeline? That's an idea." Because this leads me to my final factor fiction. Doctor Doom's motivation against Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four will be because he blames them for the destruction of their world by Galactus. That is his motivation, and somehow he also escapes through this wormhole, and that is the motivation behind Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom, Tony Stark, whatever you want to call it. That is the big, besides any other ulterior motivation, that is what he is. That is what's going him. That's what he's holding against him. And I think it's one of the biggest things you could say. You're responsible for destroying my world.
I gotta agree with that. because you need that moment between Doom and Reed, that ultimate hatred. Like they are so ingrained with that. It has to be something big that's going to make Doom hate Reed, and I can't think of anything better than you. Just you are the reason that my world is destroyed.
Just think of what is it? Zemo. That's where kind of I thought about it and saying to Zemo in the sense of you're responsible for the death of my family. You know, I'm gonna tear this Avengers team apart because you
Yeah.
destroyed my family or you killed my family. So if Jack's saying, let's ask the question, who is the anchor in the FF universe? I think that is something we will never know. I don't know. You know, it's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because again, it goes against the idea of my factor fiction at that point. But it's a question to ask, and that's what Marvel's always going to be kind of to say put forth that idea in Deadpool and Wolverine, every being
Yeah.
as an anchor. You know.
Yeah, but if the world is getting destroyed regardless, then that's kind of a mute point.
Yeah.
Because if there is an anchor and it's not when the Fantastic Four and it gets destroyed with the world, well, the world was getting destroyed
Yeah.
anyway. So
So, but yeah. So, all right. I will put those all out there Sunday afternoon. Get your voices be heard, and I will make sure to recheck because apparently one of my factor fictions that we put out there only had a day to do it because I thought I'd put them all in 3 days like I typically do. Well, one of them got done in a day. So, but all right. Let your voices be heard with that. And we will continue looking at Daredevil, our look at the Charles Soule run of Daredevil, issues 6 through 9, and annual number 1. So this was an interesting series of books this week because it was kind of like mini arcs um, with it at that point. So let me kind of pull up this at this point because with Marvel Unlimited, it kind of says the All right. So, what did you think about this? We could bring in Elektra to this. What did you think of her kind of arc with Daredevil?
um it threw me off at first because again, everyone is dealing with the fallout of not knowing Matt's secret identity anymore. And
Hmm.
so Matt is thinking that okay, Elektra's showing up because we she remembers that we have history as Matt Murdock and Elektra, and I have history with her as Daredevil and Elektra, but she doesn't know the two are the same. But actually, Elektra is there because she is accusing Daredevil of doing something to her quote unquote daughter, and
Hmm.
Daredevil is confused because he's like,
What
you
daughter?
don't you don't have a daughter. We have spent a lot of time together, and this has never come up,
Yeah.
including them talking about it and her saying, yes, this happened around college. And then I went off to train with Stick. And then, I gave the baby up, and he's starting to think, wait a minute, college. I was with you in college. Hold
Yeah.
on
I,
now.
I liked her in the fight that she blind spot thinks he's got a in on Elektra, but Elektra's way too smart, way too powerful for it, and she quickly breaks his arm and takes him out. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting hearing that kind of interesting retcon of a story behind it, as as they're kind of fighting and she's talking through it at that point. But I like how Daredevil and Foggy had this kind of meeting of like uneasiness still between the both of them.
Yeah. And Foggy's being honest, he goes, yeah, all of this is still your fault, right? Because Foggy's the only one right now who knows about the memory tampering. So he's
Yep.
like,
But
everything's more complicated because of what you did.
and we'll eventually get to that in this series. It's gonna be a little bit down the line, but we will reveal what exactly happened, why all of a sudden everyone except for Foggy doesn't remember anymore that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, including Elektra. What did you think about like kind of the coloring of this? This is kind of a difference. I'm not talking about like the psychedelic coloring that sometimes happens at that point, but kind of the back and forth between like you see the interaction between him and Foggy. You get a different kind of color palette. In the past, you get a different color palette when they're present. Like, what did you feel about that? Did you like that? Was it kind of off-putting to you?
I liked how they inked and colored the throwback scenes a little bit different. It gave that feeling of a flashback to it. It gave that there was a little bit more of a grainy overlay to the flashbacks and things like that. So it the overall style of it was different, and it gave it that pop that okay, this is the past, this is the present, and going back and forth.
Yeah, and eventually find out and revealed that Elektra's been brainwashed. The individual says a code word, the tangle web we weave, knocks her out of it, realizes everything. She doesn't have a daughter, and nothing like that point happens. And I like how Matt says, what are you gonna do? I think no one does this to me. No one. I thank you. I meant, but don't get in my way.
Yeah.
So we know she's gonna take care of business.
Yeah, she's going to be the trained assassin that she is, and she's not going to take this lightly. You mess with her mind, and she is not going to let that slide.
Yep. And so we head into another kind of quick 2-issue stint with Matt going to Macau, kind of playing poker at that point, trying to look for information. We don't know necessarily what he's looking for at the time, but he's looking for some information, and kind of being this gallivanting man about Macau. And what is he looking for?
So he is. Get back to where.
Yeah.
He is out looking for some information, and he's with doing a team up with Spider-Man of all people. Let me get back to where I was. Sorry, my Marvel Unlimited just closed out. So there is
typical of Marvel Unlimited.
I know, right? So there is a briefcase that he is trying to get back, and it has a certain amount of information in there that he doesn't really is ready to tell everyone about. And so he's been working on getting this back, and it has information on everyone that the Black Cat has gathered, all these criminal organizations, yep. Wilson Fisk, the Owl, the Hood, Tombstone, Madam Mosque, Mr. Negative, Hammerhead, just a way that he can gather them and take them all out at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's very valuable information. Spider-Man is in a different point in his life. He's kind of like, worldwide, Peter Parker's on the height at this point, leading up Parker Industries worldwide. So it's always great to see Matt and Peter take down these criminals. Great team up at that point. But Spider-Man kind of calls his bluff, saying, "I'm not gonna let you necessarily have this. I don't trust you with what you're gonna do with this."
Spider-Man realizes that something is off and something is missing. He's like, "I have all these memories of adventures that we've gone over the years, but they feel incomplete. Like they aren't whole pictures, just like a jigsaw puzzle with only half its pieces." And I thought, gee, that sure is odd, considering that you are, after all, one of my oldest and most trusted colleagues in the superhero biz.
Yeah. I do like it when he says, eventually gives it up, and he says, watch out for those black costume phases. They really do a number on you.
Yeah, that was a great way, little nod and wink to end it.
Yeah. I'll say this, the annual one that we read, bad. I didn't like the art. I didn't like the story. I'm not even bothering going over it at that point. If Jack, I know you said you went too far. Issue 10. David, what did you think of it? I don't even think it's worth my time, because I read it and I was like, I usually try to find something good, and this was just bad.
It was not good at all, either of them. And I expected more out of the Echo story, and it fell flat.
Yeah, it just wasn't great. So, Fifth of Jack, I'll save your time if you want to kind of complete it at that point. It just, that's the problem sometimes with annuals. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're okay, and sometimes they're just like, I felt like I wasted money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a break next week just because it'll save David and I a little bit of time since we're pulling double duty this week. Not saying we don't enjoy reading it at that point, but we're going to take a week off from Comic Book Club because we'll be, more than likely we've got 3 episodes and another trailer to break down next week on top of the review. So take a pause for Comic Book Club. But when we do return to it in 2 weeks, we'll be reviewing issues 10 through 14 of the Charles Soule run. So check that out. And all right, volume 247 in the books, David. Tell people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on all socials at The Phantom, as listed below. You can also follow me here on the Geekverse Network, where I co-host a wrestling show called The Gimmick. We come to you guys monthly, sometimes a little bit sooner than that, depending on if there's a big show or breaking information. But yeah, me, Travis Snell, and S-Bubs on The Gimmick once a month. And yeah, other than that, all socials at The Phantom. I'm most active on Twitter, but you can catch me everywhere.
Yeah, checked out your breakdown of the Royal Rumble, so that was interesting at that point. And yes, that was a very cool moment with Cena, Roman, and CM Punk, right?
Yeah. So and that was a late night for us because we watched the Rumble. It's funny because those who are watching notice that my background is different. I recently moved, and I was moving on the day of the Royal Rumble, and literally I moved everything in the house, set up the TV, and set up my office to stream later. And those were the first 2 things that got done in the house. Was I set up the TV so I could watch the Royal Rumble, and then set up the office so that I could record a podcast afterwards.
There you go. So, but yeah, check that out. You can follow me on all the socials at Chris Balga. You can catch me every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Brave and the Boys channel, doing the Organic Price Books Weekly Buyer's Guide. So check that out. Again, on their channel, 4 p.m. on Saturdays, Eastern Standard Time. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel A Podcasts. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. As always, you can make sure you check out our sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. You can... Oh, here we go. You can feel free to tweet, email, provide feedback, ask questions. DMs are open across the board. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, Geek Ultimate Alliance network feed on all your pod catchers of choice. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us in chat. Stay safe out there. In a stand, the man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, David. Post-credits discussion tonight. Captain America: Brave New World predictions. So... What do you got? What are you thinking?
I have a lot of varied predictions for this.
Okay.
So I am hoping that this will open up with a good box office. I'm hoping for about 80,000-90,000.
80,000?
Sorry, 80 or 90 million.
Oh my gosh. You're hoping that's a good box office. Oh boy.
The way that certain
Feige might quit at that point.
It would just go into the pot with all of the others. Someone would just call it a DEI movie, and so that would explain away its low box office. But no, I'm hoping for 80 to 90 million opening, but I'm also hoping that we get something that sets the stage for even more Captain America coming out of this. I really, really want Anthony Mackie to continue to get his shine at Captain America. I don't know about a solo movie, but I do want more appearances from him in the future. So I'm hoping that this is not it for him in the Captain America role. And I'm also hoping that with the introduction of the Red Hulk that we are going to get some nods to a World War Hulk or more bringing together of the Hulks. I mean, if we're never going to get an Armor Wars, at least we can get a World War Hulk or something out of this.
Oh, Armor Wars.
I mean, one day, maybe, possibly, never.
Gonna
But
eventually be like with Blade as a solo movie.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I want this movie to do well. I do. I really do. I've never shied away from Harrison Ford as my favorite actor of all time, and he continues to prove it, including on the press tour at this point. Especially when he said, he gets to talking to a reporter on the press tour, asking like, "What do you think of, you know, Anthony Mackie playing the Black Captain America?" And he says, "There's not a Black Captain America. There's just Captain America." At
yeah,
that point, I said, "Yes, yes, he gets it. He gets it. He doesn't care, but he gets it." Um, it. I like Anthony Mackie as Captain America. Period. He does a really good job. He's got the swagger. He's got everything down. I want to see him get. I'm so happy he gets a movie in his own right. Um, I cannot wait to see, you know, the Red Hulk. But I think, as they're putting this out there, it's like what everyone's saying. I've said it since the beginning too. We're gonna see Red Hulk at the end of the movie, and we're gonna see hints of it coming about. But that's what it is. Um, it'll be interesting to see where we stand as President Thunderbolt Ross. I could easily still him saying by the end, I still think he's going to be president. I think it's going to be one of those life imitates art. And we're going to get kind of say, yes, absolutely. Let's get a Red Hulk into this office at that point. Yes, this is amazing, you know? And so that's my prediction with that. I think that we are going to. I think we're going to start again. We already know we're getting adamantium in this. I think we're going to hear. I'm going to put a prediction out. We're going to hear a Weapon X out there. We're going to hear a Weapon X program out there. That's going to be the government's code name for why they're going to be working with this.
yeah. Um, I could see all of those. I'm also really hoping that with Thunderbolt Ross, we being the president, we get some kind of behind the scenes presidential stuff, like you said, your Weapon X and things like that. Kind of that scene that we had in the Avengers where they showed the map and you saw Doctor Strange and some of the other people. I'm hoping for something like that where we see some files, where we see something that leads to the bigger universe that is on the horizon.
Yeah. And along with that, pointing back out to one of my predictions for this year, that we will start seeing the formation of our new Avengers team. I could see our post-credit scene starting that formation. Giancarlo Esposito, and that is how you pronounce it, per him. That is how you pronounce his last name, Esposito. I'm going to be very interested to see, because this was a late addition into this movie. I do not question the man's acting ability. He is outstanding. Everything I've ever seen him in, he's definitely one of the great actors out there. That's when I'm going to wait to see exactly what that is, because what changed and what it was. But
so I've heard he's the reason why they cut the Serpent Society, and
yes, because they were able to get him.
Yep, they had gone back for reshoots. He became available, so they ended up having to shift gears with that. And I think he is a phenomenal actor. And as much as I would have liked to see the Serpent Society in there, and again, I'm a wrestling geek, so Seth Rollins was going to be a member of the Serpent Society. As much as I would have liked that, having him in this movie,
Caliber.
Yeah.
Sorry, Seth. Sorry. Love you, but not that much.
Yeah, you're a great wrestler, but you cannot pass this up. Like, this man makes great cinema every time I see him, whether it's on big screen, little screen, even in video games. He is amazing. So yes, please.
Yep. I think my final predictions are: I want this movie to be good. I think it's going to come off as very disjointed. I think it's going to come off as it's going to feel that a lot of things are not going to be edited very well together, and it's going to feel like things were changed and mixed. I mean, they're going to do the best, but I just still think it's going to come off very disjointed. The leader, I'm curious just to see Nathan Blake back in this. Um, I don't think that's going to be hard to believe where like he fits into this whole thing as this whole Manchurian candidate kind of thing he's got. I think he's gonna basically is the reason why we get Red Hulk in this, why Isaiah Bradley goes nutso in this. Um, Box office prediction for me, it's going to be under 100. It's I don't think it's going to be able to cross it. Um, and people say, "Up, see, Deadpool and Wolverine are just like is an anomaly at that point. Marvel's not back." I think we all predicted that this is going to be the lowest performing of all the MCU movies this year, and I think again that's why they put it in February. They can try to spin it all they want, but if they had more confidence in this movie, Thunderbolts would be not opening in May.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember I had a fact or fiction saying that this was going to be the lowest
Yep. You did.
Captain America movie as a whole, and I stand by that for multiple reasons. And I'm just hoping that they are not already looking past this movie onto their next projects.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I know the devil fruit site, as some of our friends of the show would call it at that point. Um, what do you think? Are we getting a certified fresh or are we getting rotten? I'm not even going to ask for a percentage. I'm just going to say, are we going to say we're going to be fresh or rotten for this one?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to be rotten for this.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Again, I want it to be good. Again, but we love Marvel, but we're also not necessarily. This movie was plagued by a lot, and unfortunately, you know, I want to be proven wrong. Please prove me wrong. I'm going into this wanting this to do well because the trailers are giving me a little bit of hope with how they're filming. But we've also seen times where there are great trailers and the movies are not so great. So,
Yeah, I'm
but
hoping that what we've seen in the trailers is not the best of it.
yeah. So, but all right. Well, we will see you twice next week. Again, our Spider-Man breakdown, more than likely our Thunderbolts breakdown, will drop Friday morning. We will record Wednesday. And then tune back into us live, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time, Friday night for our live spoiler breakdown, and audio will drop on Saturday. Y'all enjoy the movie. We're seeing it. We'll see y'all next week. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
See ya.